Hi, this is Mike from BandLab. In this video, we're going to look at how you can use sequencing, mixing, and processing to get a golden age hip-hop sound in BandLab. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. Here I'm starting out with the sketch I made earlier. If you're looking for a guide to starting your own track from scratch, check out our playlist of video tutorials. This sketch has all the right elements for a golden age hip-hop track, but without the correct programming and processing, it's just not going to sound authentic. The first thing I want to focus on is the drum programming. A big part of the classic hip-hop sound is 16th note swing, which means any sounds that are on even numbered 16th notes are played slightly later. I turn snap to grid off, then move the drum sounds on even numbered 16th notes slightly to the right so that they play later. This instantly gives the beat a skippier, funkier hip-hop feel. I'd also like to add a touch of reverb to the snare. I duplicate the drum track, and on the new track, I delete everything but the snare so that I have a pure snare track. Then, I go back to the original track and delete the snare. Now that I have the snare on its own track, I can process it without affecting the other drum sounds. On the snare track, I open the effects panel and add a reverb, univerb effect. I set the type to classroom. This gives the snare a reverb effect, while the rest of the drum sounds remain dry. Now I want to make the electric piano part more characterful. I add a modulation stereo tremolo effect. I set the depth to 37% to make the sound more subtle. This tremolo effect gives the keys a touch of movement and stops them from sounding so static. Next, I add another univerb, again setting its type to classroom, but this time I turn the mix up to 50%. This gives the keys a subtle, natural-sounding reverb. For the final touch, I want to add a little digital grit to bring out the sound's top end. I add a distortion bit crusher effect, setting the intensity to 28%, the bits to 6%, and the mix to 22%. This makes the sound noisier and gives it a lo-fi top-end sheen. On the horn track, I add a delay, ping-pong delay effect. I set the left delay and right delay times to 1/8 notes. Turn the feedback up to 62%, then set the mix to 47%. This gives the horn a rhythmic stereo delay tail, which sounds atmospheric, but it could do with some reverb to make it sound more natural. I add a univerb, setting the type to classroom. For the bass line, the first thing I want to do is to make sure that any even-numbered 16th notes are swung so that they fit with the drums. Again, I turn snap to grid off and drag any even-numbered 16th notes slightly to the right so that they play later. I want the bass to sound consistent and loud, so I add a Dynamics BL1176 effect. This makes the bass a touch too loud, so I turn the effect's output down to -1.2 dB. For the funky wah guitar sample, I'm going to use a similar combination of delay and reverb as I did with the horn track. However, this time I'm going to position the reverb before the delay, which gives us a slightly different feel. I add a univerb, set the type to classroom, and turn up the mix to 44%. I then add a ping-pong delay, setting the left and right delay times to eighth notes and the mix to 50%. As the delay comes after the reverb effect, the reverb tail will get repeated by the delay, giving us a subtly different feel. Let's compare the original unprocessed version of this sketch with the processed version. The processed version has better flowing beats, a richer stereo panorama, and a more cohesive feel overall. Remember, you can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!